In this recorded tutorial, I want to talk about the concept of blocks. Now, blocks are actually very powerful, but they can also be very simple. And really, a block is just a collection of objects grouped together. And for this example, what I've got is some lines that are in the shape of a 2D lighting symbol, a parcan. And you can see that at the moment they're individual lines. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to join them together. Okay, so I'm going to take this collection of lines and I'm just going to type J, enter for join, and you can see that that is now one object. Now this arc was also made up of lines, and I've showed how to do that in a previous tutorial. So this means that I can now make this a wipeout. So I'm going to go to the draw menu and I'm going to go to wipeout. I'm going to press down, go to polyline, select the closed polyline and convert it into a wipeout. Now this would make a really good symbol, but rather than copying and pasting this every time I want to use it, I can turn it into a block. Now there's two ways of making blocks. There's a quick and dirty way, and then there's the more sort of comprehensive way. I'm going to show you them both and I'll show you the pros and cons. Now blocks live in the insert menu, and you can see this first panel, or the first two panels, are all about blocks. And you can see that the first button here, insert, this is where we'd normally find our blocks ready for inserting. And you can see that at the moment I don't have any. So we're going to create one. Now the quick and easy way of doing this would be just to select the objects you want in a group in this block, and then go right click, clipboard, copy. Now I always suggest copy with base point, because that means that you will always be able to select where you're inserting this object, where it's going to pick it up from, rather than if you just use copy and paste at the sort of ordinary control or command C, control command V, then it will always pick it up in the bottom left hand corner, which isn't particularly useful most of the time. And now I'm going to paste, and I'm going to go to this one here, paste as block. Now you can see that it's going to paste it, and I've got it by the center where I chose the base point, and now I can just paste this in. And when I hover over this, you can see that now instead of saying polyline, it says block reference. So this one is a block, where this original one is just a wipeout and a line. So this is now a block, and the good thing about blocks is that whenever you copy and paste them, so I'm just going to do a copy selection here and just paste a few of these down, press enter to finish. The great thing about blocks is that you can edit them afterwards. Now if I go to right click, edit block in place, you can see that it brings up this reference edit menu. And this is the name of my block, A capital C A 83AOF98. Now that's not particularly useful as a name, and that's why I don't really like this quick way of doing it, this paste as block, because it doesn't allow you to name them. And really, when we're making blocks, we're going to be using them over and over. We can use them in many drawings, and that isn't really a very good title for a parcan, is it? So not ideal. However, we'll go with it for now, and you can now see that I'm now editing this block, and I'm doing it in the model view. So I can now maybe go to the home tab and get the line tool, and let's make this into a more specific type of parcan, and we'll just draw a diagonal line here. And when we're done, we can just go right click, close, save reference edits, and it says click OK. And now you can see that, look, that edit has been echoed across every single block. And that is why blocks are powerful, because if your drawing ever changes and you change your block, then it will change across every single copy of that block. And you can see it hasn't changed this original wipeout line symbol. So that's the concept of blocks, really. Now, as I say, that isn't the sort of best way to create a block. And a better way, I'm just going to move these out of the way, a better way is to actually use the block creation tool. So I'm going to go to insert, create block. And that gives us a pop-up window which allows us to add a lot more information. So in here I can actually type par 64, and I've got quite a few different options here that I can edit. Now you can see that I can pick the base point. So that's this first option, and I can either choose to specify on screen or pick the point. So I'm going to pick the point now, and I like to pick that up in the center of that symbol, and you can see it's now picked up the X and Y coordinates for that. The next column is objects, and it says specify on screen. So because I selected the objects first, I don't really need to do that. But if you hadn't selected the objects first, you went straight to create block, you can then click this button and you can draw around the objects that you want in your block. Now when this block is made, we can choose what's going to happen. We can either retain the original wipeout and line drawing, we can convert it straight into a block so it will get swapped out for the block in its place, or we can choose to just delete it from our drawing, keep it as a block, and whenever we want to use it, it'll be in the insert drop down over here. I'm going to convert this to a block for now, and we've got an annotation behaviour. Now I don't need that at the moment. We've got scale uniformity, and this one's quite useful, allow exploding, and that means that at any point you can select your block, type in X enter or explode, and convert it back to its wipeout and lines. So I'm going to allow that, so that's ticked. I can add some description in here if I wanted to, and I can choose when I click OK if I wanted to open this directly in a block editor. Now what is a block editor? Let me explain. I'm going to click OK, and this is now the block. It's been replaced. If I ever want to edit this, I can right click and go to the block editor, and this is a sort of another part of AutoCAD. This is separate to the model space. Now if I go to the block editor, you can see that it's all changed now. I've got a block editor menu ribbon, and I've got a grey background to denote that I'm in the block editor. And this is where I can make some sort of real changes to my drawing if I wanted to. You can see that the X and Y, the 0, 0 reference point, is on the base point that I chose. And let's make some changes to this then. Let's just put that line back in, that diagonal line to there. And let's put in another one. Let's put a cross in here. Let's just hover and get these straight. Lovely. And now that's done, I can just click on close block editor at the very end, and it'll ask me, do I want to save? Yes. And there you can see I've edited my block. And this block now can be copied and pasted around, and they'll all be the same. If I go to the insert tab, you can see that it is now sitting here. Both of them are sitting here. This is the first one I made with a crazy name, and this one here with a more sort of useful name are sitting there ready to be used at any point. Now we can edit this block in the block editor, as we've said, and there is a button on the ribbon menu to get into the block editor. Now at the moment I haven't selected either of these shapes, so you can see that I get this pop-up window in it which shows me all the drawings that I have, all the blocks that I have ready to be edited, and I can choose one in here, click OK, and there I am in the block editor. An important consideration when you're creating blocks is to think about layers, because whenever you make a block and copy and paste it into another drawing, it will always pull those layers in to that drawing as well. So I'm just going to demonstrate that very quickly. So at the moment you can see that this block is on layer 0. Now layer 0, as we've already discovered, is on every single AutoCAD drawing by default. It's on a new drawing it just gets created. So because this is made on layer 0, if I was to copy this block, and let's just start up a new drawing, turn off the grid and paste this in, you can see that I've pasted that block in, and that has been pulled into our drawing. I've now got it here available to use in this new drawing. But because it was on layer 0, it hasn't pulled in any other layers with it because, layer 0 was already there. However, if I just go back to this original drawing and let's just go to the block editor, and I'm just going to select all this, just going to select this, and I'm just going to change this to, let's say, the red layer, and I'm just going to save the block and close the block editor. So this is now on the red layer. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to start up a new drawing, switch off the grid, and paste this one in. And you can see that this has come in red, which means that we've had a red layer inserted into our new drawing. Now, depending which layers we use to create our blocks on, and whether we choose the object attributes to be by layer or by block, that will determine exactly how that block will behave when it's copied or inserted from one drawing to the next. And on this table you can see here are the different variations.